Hey, this is Adam Nitti, and today I wanted to get into some of the implications of working with things like scales, arpeggios, and other academic components of music theory. One of the things that I find is maybe the greatest challenge for a lot of stringed instrument players is getting away from that visual dependency on the instrument. And I think more often than not, a lot of players that are aspiring to become better and improve, they fight with being dependent on the visual cues that the instrument provides. In other words, they're learned and are maybe still playing based mostly on patterns and other things that are memorized, not really thinking as much about letting go of that and just playing the music, being expressive. So obviously we have to have the music theory, we have to have the academic componentry to be able to learn how to create certain sounds on the instrument. But at some point, a student or a player needs to be able to break off from that and use what it is that they have already memorized for more musical purposes. So that's a theme that we're going to be covering a good bit in many of these lessons. But today what I wanted to do is look at the examples of specific patterns like scales or arpeggios, and just talk about what typically happens when we learn a scale or arpeggio. Let's say that we were just working on a very simple major scale, let's say a C major scale. So on the bass, I might have a specific hand position like this, where I play up through each note of the scale, ascending first, and then I go back down in a descending fashion. And so many of the things that we learn, whether it's scales or arpeggios, whatever, we always start from the bottom, we go up to the top, and then come back down to where we started. Well, when a player practices like this exclusively, where their only academic component work is playing ascending, descending, ascending, descending, in other words, playing from like a bottom-up type of approach only, that has a way of working itself into the player's musical expression on a gig or in a rehearsal. So, I mean, you are what you practice. You know, if you only practice moving in a particular direction, chances are that's going to be what's most familiar to you and what's in your comfort zone when you go to actually perform. So the idea is to get away from that, and sometimes you have to kind of trick your mind into not being dependent on those types of approaches. So this is just a very simple concept, and this is the idea of presenting players with the idea of moving in a descending fashion instead of moving in an ascending fashion, with the hopes that they will play both of these approaches as exercises as a complement to one another. So if I take that same C major scale and I ascend with it, notice that I'm beginning with the second finger right now with this particular pattern. Well, what if I start at the end of the pattern? In this case, the next octave higher. This is where the pattern ended here on this C. What if I now move my second finger to that point and now play in a descending fashion? So if I start from the top here, I've got to know what that pattern is going to look like when I descend, and that shape is going to have implications about how your hand covers the different frets on the fingerboard, right? So this is an example where I'm ascending, starting with the second finger, but then I'm going to go to that octave, that next higher octave, and then I'm going to descend the same notes going back to where I started on the low octave. And you can see how this changes hand positions. Now, how this might carry over into a percussionist world or a drummer's world is you think about things like rudiments that may begin with the left hand or may begin with the right hand. You can flip those things around as well. So if a particular rudiment begins with the left hand, have the student begin with the right hand instead. Basically, just create a mirror image of what it was that they were working with, just to try and make sure you are forcing new lead hands or new lead fingerings, whatever is appropriate. And that is how you can creatively apply this to other instruments as well. Hope this helps you out, and thanks for checking out this video.